Hi, my name is Ira Ebbin, and I'm honored to share this brief thought on Parshat Balak with my chaverim from the RCA. Parshat Balak is what I refer to as the spin-off Parsha, where the TV shows take a character or a context from an existing show and they start another series with it. For those of us who grew up in the 1980s, you would remember the show Happy Days, and it had several spin-offs, including Laverne and Shirley, a fantastic show, the very underrated Mork and Mindy, and yes, the practically unwatchable Joni Loves Chachi. Now, I share this with you, of course, to show off my incredible bekias in television shows from the 1980s, but to point out that it's not uncommon concept, that an idea that our Torah, which is given in the form of a book, may be using the spin-off style for our Parsha. The question, though, still remains, why is this story here? I mean, we could have easily skipped this spin-off, and it wouldn't have affected our plot of our story at all. What I'd like to propose is that, in fact, the spin-off plays an important role in the context of our story. In the beginning of Parshat Pinchas, we are presented with the aftermath of this week's Parsha. So roar et ha-Midyanim, harass the Midianites, v'yikitem otam, and smite them. Rashi there quotes the Gemara in Baba Kama, which distinguishes between Moav and Midyan. Midyan, at the end of our Parsha, was mafkir their daughters to be mezaneh in order to cause the Jewish nation to sin after the Baal Peor. But Moav, on the other hand, says Rashi, were not commanded to destroy, because in the future, roots would come out from them. Now, I always found this response to the sin of Balak and Moav strange, as clearly Chazal did as well. Chazal needed to come up with an external discrepancy between the response to the Midianites in contrast to the Moabites. Why are we instructed to attack Midyan, which our Parsha clearly states were the ones who were recruited into this diabolical plan, which was initiated by Balak and Moav, while Moav, on the other hand, seems to get off the hook completely. In fact, in Dvar and Parachav Gimel, we are instructed not to allow the Moavim into our Kahal forever. Lo tidro shlamam v'tovatam kol yemei chayach olam. That the Moavites were not our friends, and they'll never will be. But says the same Gemara in Baba Kama, Moshe even thought through a Kal V'chomer that if you attack we have to attack the Midyan, who just joined the plot. Kal V'chomer, we should also attack Moav. It makes perfect sense, but Moshe was instructed not to. The answer, I think, comes from the words in the beginning of this week's Parsha. Vayagar Moav hirav hu. The Ramban picks up on this and explains that Moav was a very small nation, not originating as one of the 7 nations of Canaan. They saw the sheer size of the Jewish camp, probably 2 to 3 million people, and they were overwhelmed. Midyan, on the other hand, explains Rashi, they were arch rivals with Moab, but they welcomed the invitation to attack the Jewish nation, and they made peace with Moab in order to attack the Jews. What we see is obvious, but I think an important lesson for the days that we live in. There's a certain sensitivity to Moab as they attacked us because they were afraid, they were overwhelmed. Midyan, on the other hand, attacked us for completely different reasons. They attacked us because they hate Jews. It's interesting that by Midyan we're told soror hatamidyanim, to harass them, as opposed to destroy or even attack. I would think this idea of harassing them would mean that we need to put them in their place, show them that they messed with the wrong people and the wrong God, and teach them a lesson that they won't soon forget. We are happy to make peace with our neighbors when the opportunity presents itself. At minimum, we can agree to live alongside each other. But when you hate us for no reason except for pure hatred, then we have to use force and strength to show that we will not be intimidated. Midrash Tanchuma quotes this scene as a source for the halacha of Baba Machteret. If someone is coming to kill you, then you must aggressively take action first, because the best defense is a good offense. This story, I believe, is here as we are in the final stories being told about the generation of the Midbar. Sefer Devarim, we're going to begin in a few weeks, is referred to as Mishnah Torah. It's filled with Moshe's speeches to the nation and a plethora of mitzvot. The story of the nation, however, is ending in these closing chapters and portions of Sefer Bamidbar. Parshat Chukat, which we read last week, concluded with the battle of Og and Sichon, battles with Canaanim, and the battles of Amalek. Parshat Balak and the story of Bilam is a spin-off, but it's there to teach us by example how to deal with the different types of enemies that we will encounter once we become a nation that dwells alone. There will be a time for peace and neighboring nations that we'll pursue peace with. We always have and we always will. But unfortunately, given the enemies that we face who hate us for no other reason other than the fact that we are Jews, there is also a time that we must display strength. For more ideas on this, see Zev Jabotinsky's article, The Iron Wall. But in the meantime, I wish you all a wonderful week and continued Hatzlacha in your Avodas HaKodesh.